Greetings, guys. I'm Tyrik Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network. Early voting has officially begun here in the state of Georgia, and I'm sitting down with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure. It's good to be here.
Yeah, of course. So obviously, all eyes are on Georgia,
Oh,
as they always are. Georgia is a battleground state, and I want to know when it comes to a big election like this. Obviously, it's presidential, right? Can you talk about the significance of Georgia being a battleground and everybody looking at us?
well, we have 16 electoral votes that are up for grabs, and we're going to be very competitive, along with probably 5 or 6 other states. So obviously, it's very important. It's going to be a tight race. At the end of the day, we want every Georgian to get out to vote, and we want them to encourage the vote as soon as they can because we like early voting. We know that we had about 250,000 people that voted, absentee, and those people maybe another 50, so we'll be up to say 300,000. That's about 6%, 5%. But we think what we've seen so far today, we had 71,000 people already had voted today
Really?
by 10:29. So that was just before our press conference. So if you think about that, we're going to have a strong day today. We have 16 days of total early voting, then obviously election day. Your choice as a voter, and I would encourage you to make your plan. If you're going to vote absentee, you need to get that application in real quick. Make your application. Just because the Postal Service is taking longer, they have made it a priority, and I'm going to give them a shout out for doing that. The absentee ballots last week went out that were requested already. But then if you're going to vote early, what day, what time, figure that out and make a plan.
Okay. And let me talk to you about this, right? So, of course, in the 2020 election, you were pressured to find over 11,000 votes. Can you talk to us about how you were feeling during that phone call and how you and your family dealt with the death threats that you were facing?
Well, at the end of the day, we had a lot of things that were raised and these questions that people had. They said that, for example, there was 10,315 dead people, and there turned out there was just a total of 4. And they said there were 66,000 underage voters. There was 0. But the other people didn't have, the personal identifying information, like their day, month, year of their birth date. We had that, so we went back and we checked. They said that there was thousands, 2,100 felons. We found less than 74 still under felony sentence. They said there's 2,400 non-registered. Everything that they said, none of it was ever proved out. And so we just, put our head down, and we knew that at the end of the day, there weren't anything additional to find. We had done our work, and the voters had done theirs, and we had a verifiable paper ballot. In fact, we recounted those presidential ballots, all ballots, but the presidential race, it was counted 3 times. The first time, obviously, it went through the machines. The second time was a hand retally of all 5 million ballots. Not, looking at the QR code, but reading the human readable text. And that's how the race shook out. And then obviously anyone that comes within 0.5% can ask for a recount. So we ran it through the machines again and got virtually the same result. So, but since, 2020, what we've been working on is trying to shore up any concerns that people could have or any places where have been litigious. For example, we had been sued, guess which party? It's actually both parties on signature match. We got it from Stacey Abrams' group, after the 2018 result. They said signature match is very subjective. Got sued by the Republicans after 2020 on signature match. Well, now if you use absentee, we're using driver's license number primarily, but we use the same form of identification no matter how you vote in Georgia. And I like that we're treating every voter the same no matter how you vote. So it's working out well.
Okay. Now let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about the Georgia Election Board, right? So they've implemented some new rules, and one of the biggest rules is voting, the votes being counted by hand, right? So let's talk about that because I remember the judge still has the final ruling that'll be this week, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so let's say if this does go into full effect, do you think that there will be a winner in Georgia on election night? And if not, how long do you think that process will take if they do have to hand count the ballots?
Well, if you define election night of being 12 p.m. midnight, if you did the hand count of all the ballots, no, you would not know, perhaps, depending how close the race is. But if it's close like what we're expecting it to be, There'd be some larger counties that just couldn't get it done. And actually, even the smaller counties will struggle with that also. So you could be looking at 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's not a good place to be. That's when you start having all these conspiracy theories. But that's before a judge. He'll make a determination. And once he does, we're going to follow the law.
Okay. And let me ask you this: you actually conducted, voter registrations to an audit on voter registrations to ensure that only American citizens were voting in this election. Can you talk about why that was an important step to take before this election?
Because a majority of Democrats, majority of Republicans all believe only American citizens should be voting in our elections. With the open border policies that we had from the Biden administration, I thought it was really important. So almost 2 years ago, about 22 months ago, I did an audit of the voter rolls to see if we had any non-citizens on the voter list. And what we found was no non-citizens on the list, but about 1,600 people who attempted to register, but our system caught that. We partnered with the Department of Driver Services, and these folks could not verify their citizenship, so they were not, given to us as, on the list. And so we think that's really important. Our system works, and so I could report back to my fellow Georgians that only Americans are on the list. And we think that's really important. And what's really interesting is the majority of people of both political parties think only American citizens should vote. So long before people were talking about it as a hot button issue right now, we already did our good work almost 2 years ago.
Got it. And we recently had the unfortunate Hurricane Helene, that hit Georgia. How has that affected the voting?
Unbelievably, we started on time today. We have a record turnout. Every single county is up and running. They got power, they got internet. It's just absolutely amazing. And so I want to give high marks and great thanks to Governor Kemp, to his agency, the Georgia Emergency Management Association, the county election directors, and our team. Before Helene hit, our team sent out a checklist for all the counties. Said, don't fill this out before the hurricane, but after it hits, when you see what the damage is, fill this all out. So we were actually doing assessments the Saturday after, working overtime on Saturday and Sunday, after Helene hit. And then also having several Zoom calls, phone calls with GEMA, over that period of time. And the counties were ready to go today for early voting. A few precincts had to be moved, and we're still assessing where some of those locations will be on election day. But the counties have just done a tremendous job. Good to go, ready to go. And just really, it's the can-do spirit, the American spirit of get the job done no matter what.
Got it. And let me ask you this: with recent events that have happened, you talked about 2018, also talked about 2020. Do you believe that voters do have full confidence in Georgia's elections?
I have full confidence in the election results. I'm an engineer, and everything I've done since I've been elected since 2018, I've worked on making sure we have objective standards. And we have the cleanest voter list in the country. We don't pull people off the voter roll just because they haven't voted. It's because they moved to another state or they have died. And we do that objectively, being part of a multi-state organization. So we have objective criteria. Everything we do is to be objective. And so that's what we've done, photo ID for all forms of voting. And then now we have that audit tool. So we'll be able to audit any single race. And we're going to actually audit all of the races at the end of the day. So you, the voter, know that your vote counted and it was counted accurately. And so that's why we are recognized #1 for election integrity by the National Bipartisan Policy Institute. People have come together and given us high marks. But then also a very conservative group has actually given us high marks. Go figure. As much as we get dogged by everyone else, we're getting high marks because people know there's no place that does it better for elections. That's safe, secure, and accurate. And we keep lines short.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate your time. This was fantastic. I know you're very busy around this time. But last question, just to close it out. I know you're Republican. I know you're conservative. But I know that you and the former president have bumped heads. Are you supporting the former president?
Well, as Secretary of State, I really made it a policy. I never endorse anyone. And I think that's the best process because I want you, the voter, to know we're not going to be looking left or right as we run this election. And that's what we tell our county election directors. We keep the politics out of the voting booth, out of our management of the voting booth. You do the politics because you vote. Left or right, that's your decision. And we think that's the best process, and that's the best thing I should do. So you know that I'm not putting my thumb on the scale. I'm making sure it's a fair vote for everyone.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you guys, don't forget, election time is happening right now. Early voting has begun, and election day is just in a few weeks. We encourage you here at the Black Information Network to get out and vote and have your voice heard. Thank y'all so much. This has been your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network. I'm Tyrik Wynn. Catch you guys next time.